Hey everybody, welcome back to another 25 Days of Disney. I'm Jennifer and I have two guests with me today.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
Julia again.
And today we are going to get into some research part of our Disney movies today. And we're going to talk about different countries that our Disney movies take place in. We have 20 movies we're going to discuss today. Sometimes it's going to be where the movie takes place, and sometimes it might be an influence from another country that had nothing to do with the movie, but they used it as a concept for the movie. So maybe architecture or a place setting, stuff like that.
And let's get started. Number one.
The first movie we're going to talk about is Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty is a hard one to discuss sometimes where it comes from because there are two different authors who have written two different versions of Sleeping Beauty, and you could say, well, which one did Disney take its adaptation from? So you could say it's from France and you could say it's from Germany. It would be France if the original author was going to be Perrault, and it would be German if the original author was going to be Grimm.
So in like the animated classic, which country is it? Would you say it's an influence or takes place in?
I feel more like probably German because a lot of the classic Disney movies are based on their sugar-coated version of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales.
Sleeping Beauty is gonna be France. So some people will state that Sleeping Beauty is taking place in France. Some people argue it's Germany it's depending on who was the original author of it. For the artwork for Sleeping Beauty, there is a castle, and I'm gonna really butcher it. Do you know maybe how that's pronounced?
Yes.
Neuschwanstein? I don't speak German, I pretend I do.
So it's Neuschwanstein castle from Bavaria, Germany. So that's. I'll insert a picture.
He has great German pronunciation.
Yes.
I think that name means New Swan Stone.
Okay.
Just a guess.
And you know what else takes place in France? Our next one, Beauty and the Beast. So what in Beauty and the Beast do we know? Why do we believe it's France? Are there any like?
Well, the name
they
Belle,
say like bonjour a lot, and Belle obviously means like beauty, kind of like
Lumiere
beija in Spanish, and Belle.
I'm pretty sure Lumiere is like the French word for light or something.
Oh yeah, it is. I started learning some French and
lots of French influence.
And they're saying that all case France might have been an influence for Beauty and the Beast.
That's a good one you thought of. I forgot about Lumiere.
Tangled is from Germany, and let's see. This is another one where it's possibly both German and French influence. Conception of the Corona. Does that say Corona Kingdom?
Yes. Yes.
Oh no! Coronavirus.
And then Mont Saint-Michel, Normandy, France. The long-haired. What's her name?
Rapunzel.
Rapunzel. Yes, that's definitely the part of Europe where these classic Disney stories come from, which is the Brothers Grimm. So Up takes place in South America, and that's part of why it's such a cool adventure where these balloons take the little kid and the old man. Angel Falls, Venezuela, from the mountains of Ollantaytambo in Venezuela, which is the world's highest waterfall.
Yes.
And takes us to our next one, Aladdin. So based off in Southeast Asia, Middle East, like first they were going to do it with Baghdad, Iraq, but then it changed into taking place in Jordan.
Which makes, that part of the world totally makes sense. Because the movie opens with Arabian Nights, and there's a book, a very extensive book, called 1001 Arabian Nights, and the movie Aladdin is loosely based off of one of those stories.
So the Sultan's Palace was inspired by the Taj Mahal in Agra, India.
You see that? Yeah.
Yes.
The Emperor's New Groove, which I love. Peru, so we have the Inca Empire. Pacha's village reflects the Machu Picchu in Cusco, Peru.
So
That is neat.
you're gonna see that a lot of times Disney character names or things are coming from places. So Cusco.
The Prince, yeah.
Cusco, Peru.
What's the
David
same as
Spade.
the line?
Boom, baby.
Cusco's poison. Cusco's poison.
K-U-Z-C-O, Cusco, Cusco, let's go. That's from the show.
Yeah.
But anyways.
So next is we're going to talk about Mulan. Mulan takes place, of course, in China, and the emperor's home is inspired by the Forbidden City in China.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and you can see in like the sweeping visuals the famous cathedral, the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France, which came even more to prominence recently, like a year or two ago with the fire that occurred. So.
Next we're going to talk about is the Little Mermaid. And so the Little Mermaid, there are many different things that people talk about where it could take place. They talk about the Caribbean with the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so that's the thing with it being in Atlantica, that they're wondering, well, where could it actually, like, what body of water could it take place in? For Prince Eric's castle, it was inspired by the Chateau de Chillon on Lake Geneva in Switzerland, and I know I'm gonna be
probably Chateau du Chillon.
My guess is Chateau de Chillon.
I will insert the picture, and you will see the resemblance from Prince Eric's castle with this other castle building.
Next up we have Wreck-It Ralph, which takes place in no other than the United States.
We think so. It's never been confirmed.
So because the Game Central Station is inspired by the Grand Central Terminal in New York City.
I mean, it's supposed to be a video game after all, but the hub definitely has a Grand Central Station vibe. Julia and I have been there before, which can't imagine going there during COVID. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
So now we're going to move to Frozen, and this is a cool fun fact. So Frozen takes place in Norway. At Epcot in the Norway Pavilion, they have the Frozen Forever After ride. And this is the cool fact that the chapel from Frozen is based off of St. Olaf's Church in Balestrand, Norway.
And that's how you get Olaf.
The adorable snowman.
I like hugs.
He's voiced by the guy who was one of the characters in the Book of Mormon musical.
I like warm hugs.
Next is Princess and the Frog. Princess and the Frog takes place in Louisiana, here in the United States, and it takes place, you can tell by that, with the swamplands, the marsh areas, the slow-moving rivers, in the
bayou. Sorry. I was imitating the lightning bug.
The Louisiana Bayou in New Orleans.
Born on the
Do you
bayou.
want Brave? Because you're
Sure, I'll take Brave. So yeah, Merida with the. It clearly takes place in Scotland. Everything. It's like if you take Mel Gibson's Braveheart and turn it into a cartoon, and instead of Mel Gibson, you have an awesome female lead. The royal castle that Merida runs away from reflects Eilean Dun Castle in Scotland.
Yeah. Sorry for butchering these, but sometimes we don't know the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
We try our best.
Cars takes place, my favorite in the United States, Route 66. We have Ramon's House of Body Art is inspired by the U Drop in Texas. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so don't worry, I'm going to post pictures to talk about all of that. To show the references of a lot of these buildings reflect ones from another place when they're doing their concept art for the movies. The next one we're going to talk about is Atlantis, the Lost Empire, and this is in the Atlantic Ocean, city of Atlantis, and it is imagined with the Angkor Wat of Angkor, Cambodia in mind. I'm sorry, I butchered that. Cambodia. Yeah, sorry, I'm terrible at reading. Cambodia, and it's based off the legendary sunken Greek island. This, of course, because it's legendary, some people don't know like where specifically it could take place. Some people even say that southwest Morocco could be a location, area with like the shoreline possibly, and the Atlantic Ocean is believed to be the location.
Snow White, I'm going to talk about how the Evil Queen's castle is inspired by the Alcázar of Segovia, un castillo en España, a castle in Spain. I actually studied that in college when I studied the architecture in Spain and how the different buildings were influenced by like the different time periods, and such like that. And then Germany. What about Germany?
That's where it takes place.
But why would it be inspired by a castle?
I don't know. Sometimes Disney artists did that, where they took. That's where.
So it's believed then to take place in Germany, but it also has inspired by a Spain castle.
I'm wondering if
Queen.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's sometimes like text on like mugs or different. I haven't watched it in a long time. There could be reasonings in it why it takes place in Germany, but if you look at maps, they're showing Tangled and Snow White both taking place in Germany.
Gotcha.
I'll take the next one. Lion King.
Oh yeah.
So obviously that takes place in Africa, and I'm pretty sure the opening song is in Swahili, if I'm not mistaken. And regardless of what language they've translated that they dub it into, they keep it in that original language. So, Hellsgate National Park in Kenya. That area is situated in the Great Rift Valley and the Pride Lands of Sub-Saharan Africa. Truly a great Disney masterpiece, my greatest movie of all time.
Your favorite?
My absolute favorite.
Next, we have my other favorite, Coco. So that's based in Mexico, and you can hear much Spanish being spoken throughout the film. You hear actually some slang that they use. So the boy Miguel in it, he speaks Spanish, and he uses a common phrase there, and he says "que padre," which is how cool. And so it's cool how they incorporate a lot of the Spanish language in it. And obviously the Land of the Dead is based all around El Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, where they celebrate. It's a celebration of the life where the souls, everyone's family members, loved ones, they celebrate that they come back kind of to life, their souls do. And instead of focusing on mourning their death, it's a celebration of their life, and they have all the calaveras, and I think the flowers, like they're called cempasúchiles or something like that. So that one's a really cool cultural film based off Mexico and that celebration.
Next up, we have 101 Dalmatians. This takes place in London. This is the first animated Disney feature where it is set in a specific place and a specific time there in London. And you're going to say, well, what about Peter Pan? Well, Peter Pan started off in London, but then went to a fantasy fairy tale realm. Same with Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland started in London and then went to a fairy tale realm. The same with Lady and the Tramp. It does take place the whole time in London, but it's going to be a loosely fantasized New England, so it's not very, very specific. And
that's interesting. And last but not least, we have the Rescuers Down Under in Australia, mate. Get to see many Australian landscapes like the outback, the
outback,
and
forests.
Sorry. You see many Australian native animals. They incorporate the characters kangaroos, platypus, wombat. Wombat. Don't know what that is. Okay.
This one is
the Joanna. The Joanna.
And that's the actual name of it in there.
They call them
Joanna. My eagle eggs.
That's a good one. Crocodiles, koala bears,
razorback. I don't know what a razorback
and
is.
many birds. Actually, I'm gonna go get my characters.
Oh yeah!
I haven't seen Rescuers Down Under since I was a kid, and I had no idea that it took place in Australia, but it completely makes sense because
that's the second one, yeah.
Down Under. That's totally Australia.
And if I'm not mistaken, The Rescuers Down Under, I believe, is the very first sequel Disney ever made. I don't know. I could have.
The first of many.
Oh yeah, The Rescuers Down Under is a sequel.
Yes, to The Rescuers. RESCUE. Rescue Aid Society. Heads held high, touch the sky. You mean everything to me. Okay, there we go. Singing. Well, everybody, that is our 20 Disney movies that we talked about where they take place in different countries, or sometimes what other countries influence different parts of the movies where the movie didn't take place. Like sometimes we're saying, why is Spain architecture being mentioned in a Germany movie or stuff like that? Well, sometimes just artists in general like to get inspiration from many places.
Also, I know this wasn't part of our list, but I was just thinking, I saw Dory on your case, how Finding Nemo was also in Australia with Sydney, Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Yes.
So that's another Australian.
So thank you for joining us today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and join us tomorrow for another 25 Days of Disney. Yay!
Happy holidays! Feliz Navidad!
Bye.